It's been pretty much a year since I reviewed the old school digital controller for the GameCube and Game Boy player, which is a pretty solid clone of the original Hori controller, which this is obviously heavily inspired by. I mean, it's fairly one-to-one. I mean, the shape of the molding for the controller and whatnot, it feels great. The only gripe that I had was the D-pad, essentially. Didn't feel as good as I would hope, but easily you could swap parts around with this thing with a Super Nintendo controller. So I took the membrane and the D-pad and swapped it around. And I essentially just had like some Super Famicom controllers that weren't working, had cut cables or water damage, all sorts of craziness. And it's like, hey, let's try it out. And it worked great. And now they have released a new version, the old school digital controller. Exactly the same looking as this, other than it's purple. But I'm really curious, has anything changed within the last year? And I'm sure some of you guys out there seeing this being advertised and back in stock, because this was a little hard to get for a while. People were jumping on this thing. Definitely it's a worthwhile option if you wanted a Hori version. So, I mean, for a fraction of the cost, those things are going for a couple $100 still to this day. And these things are under $30. So yeah, I mean, why not, right? So I wanted to unbox this, test it out real quick and see, has anything changed? So yeah, we're gonna tear this thing down. We're gonna tear it down. So I'll put a link in the description to my previous videos. I did a comparison to the original Hori pad. A viewer on my channel let me borrow one, because I couldn't afford $200 to buy a controller like this. So I was really glad these things came out, right? But we did compare them and saw some differences with the way things were designed, but overall they were very, very close. So there's that. Feeling a little poppy on the D-pad. Not necessarily a bad thing. I don't remember how the original old school was, because this one feels a lot softer because I do have a Super Famicom D-pad membrane in there. But this doesn't feel overly bad. It's just a little poppy, clicky. Not like really clicky, but I don't know. I don't know how to describe it. Like those stupid little poppy toys that kids, those little fidget poppers, you pop the bubble back and forth. That's kind of what it feels like and sounds like. But everything feels pretty good. Let's plug this thing in and test out some Street Fighter action. That's always like one of the greatest tests for a D-pad, right? And then we'll bust it open. I mean, I ain't gonna bust it open, but I'm going to, you know, I got a screwdriver. I'm gonna open it and see. Did they change the screws? Looks like the screws that were on this one were like a black screw and these are silver. Well, I don't know. There's already a change there, right? All right. Yeah, hitting this D-pad, it does. I really don't remember. I really don't remember the original old school being that like noisy. I could be tripping, but we'll find out. This game is amazing on the Game Boy Advance, my God. Who would have thought? Street Fighter Alpha 3 on the Game Boy Advance? It's a great port. Okay, I'm having a little bit of issue doing the diagonals, which was one of my concerns with the original. It's really, and you know, to get like really quality membranes, some of us, I remember some of my viewers and myself, man, we were buying membranes for the D-pad through a bunch of different, you know, online shops to try to find a suitable replacement. And like, it was hard, man. Nobody was finding any that were like one-to-one. And the main difference is like just these grooves that are not in the original membrane. But yeah, I'm having like a real difficult time doing any diagonals here. I can't perform crap, dude. I mean, I'm getting my ass handed to me by Dan, but I can't even jump. I can't even like roll jump forward. That's unfortunate. Like, I don't even think maybe they changed the membrane on this, because I didn't like it on the original one that they put out, but I don't remember it being this bad. All right, that's unfortunate. We're gonna go ahead and tear this thing down. Let me try one more time though. It is stiff, man. It does, maybe it just needs to be worked in more, but it feels real stiff. I haven't been able to perform a single, let me just like do the crazy, not even D-pad mashing is getting it to go for me. All right, let me swap it to the one that I already modified. See if maybe I just suck, dude. I'm able to, okay. It's not that I suck. Maybe I do, but yeah, that D-pad is not good. I was at least able to do a few moves there, as you saw. So let's go ahead and power that off, change the angle here, and open this one up. For, you know, better or worse, I mean, really, I don't like the D-pad, but it can be swapped. Let's make sure nothing has changed with that. So let's open her up. Okay, so there we go. Opened up, it looks like the same board that was in the previous version. That's not an issue. The one thing that I think I pointed out in the other one is these ribbon cables that attach to the main board to the you know, shoulder buttons. You got to be careful because those can just rip off easily. It's easy to fix if you have any kind of, you know, soldering skills, but you don't want to have to deal with that, right? So let's go ahead and slide this out. And there's the main board. I don't know if there's any revision number changes here or anything, but it looks like the identical board. Date, I think that's the date down there, 2020-07-25, so probably the same board that was used. And then looking in here, man, maybe this is the same exact setup as the first version. I mean, I wouldn't really imagine they would change anything, but I thought maybe with some of the criticism out there, maybe they would have tried to find a different membrane for this, you know, new release of the controller, but it's the same exact membranes, it looks like. And the problem with these is like, they're fine, but I mean, as far as like, they're not like extremely thin or like look like they're gonna fall apart. But the problem comes in, I believe, is that these grooves go all the way through, whereas the originals don't cut all the way down. Like they don't have these grooves all the way. That could be a problem. I mean, I'm not 100% on it, but that's the only thing I've noticed that's different. And with this, it's just, I can't do the diagonals with this membrane. Maybe you will have better luck with that, but I just cannot, like in a game like that, this controller is no good for me. If you're playing other things where diagonals aren't that important, maybe role-playing games and whatnot, this may be fine. But the biggest thing I could recommend is trying to get like a Super Nintendo or Super Famicom membrane and swap those components out. The membrane's like the biggest thing, but you can, you know, swap out the D-pad too if you don't like it. But I don't really think there's too much of an issue with the actual plastic here. It's just really the membrane, but I swapped both, as you saw on this one. I'm not gonna reopen it. I'll probably already showed from the other video or take a look at that other video, but just swapping the membrane and the D-pad was pretty easy and got great results. Like I could do diagonal moves and whatnot, but this is just not good. If you could find, like I wouldn't recommend just taking a Super Nintendo controller and gutting it if it works. I would recommend trying to find like broken as is parts type of thing. Like I got a bunch of Super Famicom controllers imported from Japan really cheap. So that's one thing to look at. If you can get one controller, maybe at a swap meet, something, just bust it up, or you got a broken one, swap it out and you'll have a solid ass controller for, you know, under 30 bucks instead of spending close to 200 for one. So updated thoughts, it's exactly the same it seems, but it felt a little more poppy to me. Maybe I'm just misremembering it, but I still can't do the diagonals without replacing that membrane. So if you're interested in this controller, I'll put links down below. Old Skool selling it through their website. Stone Age Gamers selling it. Check them out. Links down below. Really do appreciate every single one of you guys. Thanks for watching. That said, we'll catch you on the next one. Bye.